Hey guys, it's Scott McGillivray here. This is the Real Estate Rebel podcast. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And visit me at scottmcgillivray.com for more real estate information and education. Now, today's podcast is a real special one because our guest is not only a superstar real estate investor and pro, he's also a friend of mine. He is the one we're going to talk to about the topic today, which is the possible mission of buying 15 properties in 1 year. That some would call this the impossible mission, but I know it's not impossible. Billy knows it's not impossible. I feel fortunate. I met our guest today, Billy Gleason, about 4 years ago. I was filming a show called Buyers Bootcamp, and that was a real estate investing show. And Billy and his wife applied for the show. The casting team was like, "You're going to love this guy. He's a lot like you, super ambitious." And him and his wife wanted to become, more serious real estate investors. They had done a little bit of real estate investing, didn't have the best results. I'll let Billy tell you about that. So they were at a crossroads, and I feel like it was just the timing and the situation worked out well. We got to do the show together. We renovated and flipped a property together, and now we've bought, flipped, and done some buy and holds together. We're business partners in his market, which I love. He does a lot of investing in the state of New York, which is a great investing spot for me as well. So pretty excited. I'll be bringing him in just a minute. But before I do, I wanted to let you guys know something kind of crazy. This topic of buying lots of properties in a short period of time is exciting. Every investor who gets their first property and their second property starts to get really ambitious because real estate investing is addictive if you do it well. And I know this from experience because I bought my first house in the first year. The second year I was investing, I bought 2 houses, so I had a total of 3. But then something absolutely crazy happened. I bought 8 houses in 1 day. I bought 8 properties in 1 day, and people, that was it. Once I realized I could buy 8 in a day, I was off to the races and started doing all kinds of crazy things. How did I buy 8 properties in 1 day? I will tell you at the end. But let's talk to somebody else who is an avid investor, a friend of mine. He is a real estate superstar. Billy, welcome to the show. How you been, buddy?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the warm invitation on there. Real estate superstar. I could get used to being called that. I think you're the first person to ever reference me to that, but I'm pumped to be on, man. As anyone that knows me since I've met you guy I look up to, try to emulate in a lot of ways, and it got me thinking. I'm coming on the Real Estate Rebel podcast as named Billy. I mean, I feel like I should have a cool tag name like Ferocious Flipper, Renovation Renegade. I mean, we'll work on that throughout the course here, but I'm super pumped to be on, man. I'm glad you had me, and we're talking about some topics that just pump me up just thinking about it. So,
well, listen, when I met you, I was like, this guy has got all the right energy and he's got some skills. And, just it reminded of me when I got started. I had a lot of energy, I had some skills, but I didn't necessarily, have the right focus, and I was all over the map. And I think a lot of people, when they get into real estate, they want to know the quickest and easiest path to results. You were like that. I was like that. And now you've done it. Like, you've bought lots of properties. You're an active investor. How many have in the last year? Would you say you've done 15?
Not in the last year. The year I did 15 was 2018. Okay. I slowed down a little bit. I got a little bit more into buy and holds and a little bit busier with my real estate license. But I'll do about a dozen still, so 10 to a dozen.
Just a dozen. You're just doing a dozen new investments every year.
Dialed it back.
Okay. So before you give us all your secrets and tips and, share all your information so that people who are listening can kind of, learn from your mistakes and from your wins. Let's go back to the beginning, because just like me, you were not, you didn't inherit a real estate portfolio. You don't come from a family of real estate investors. Your education and background isn't in real estate, same as me. So where did you start?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, once TV shows started emphasizing, flipping, and well, you were the first with the rentals and, everything else to glorify those. You make it look so darn easy, that we think we can do it. And, and people go through the corporate grind and just get whittled away over time with realizing that no matter how much output they have when you're working for someone else and someone else is cutting your paycheck, you're going to be, your success is obviously capped at whatever they think it is. And I had talked about it. My father was a contractor and I'd always been into business. And so the prospect of flipping a home and making $20,000, $30,000, whatever, they have on the different shows intrigued me. And so I hit a boiling point in my professional career where the corporation I was working for just stuck it to me and I'd had enough. And so I had some savings and I had a kind of opportunity to get into it and buy my first house. And it was a learning experience. It's definitely been a roller coaster ride, as many people that have got deep into real estate have experienced. But ultimately it was like anything else. It's just, you kind of, wow, this guy's doing this. I bet I could do this because, I have these skills, or I know this person, or such and such made this on their house. I could do that. And, eventually you gather as much information you can from wherever, especially podcasts like this, which is great for investors on all kinds of, levels of where they're at in their real estate career. So it just kind of was a snowball that escalated to where, man, I got to make a move. And eventually I had enough and jumped right in.
Well, how did that first one go? I know how it went, but you need to say it, man. Let's hear it.
Well, actually, about the third. The third one was the catastrophic loss. The first one was actually a deal that I wholesaled and made a little bit of money on because I was so scared I couldn't get the money. I should have made way more money on it, but I got nervous and took the easy exit. A couple into it, I kind of skipped some I's and T's that needed to be dotted and crossed. And I had a little momentum from a couple deals going well for me. And I jumped into a house that was a 10,000 square foot house in Tampa, Florida. That's and crazy. the price per square foot comps for all the 4,000 square foot houses had me selling it at 1.5 million. And so I bought it for 525. We put a bunch of money into it without really getting in the numbers. We ended up losing six figures, me and my two other partners on it. And so it had me with my tail between my legs for a little while. But then I got back into it in the Buffalo area. And shortly thereafter, I met a handsome fellow with an HGTV show that started mentoring me, and things started going up from there.
Dude, it was crazy times. Like you and your wife there had you were pretty down in the dumps about that last deal, but I give you a ton of credit because you didn't give up. You're like, you know what, if I quit now, I fail. If I keep going, I can turn this into a learning experience and still win. And that is like dozens and dozens of deals behind you now. We got together, we did a house on Grand Island that you had just got your hands on. And we did well with that house. I mean, we put a little bit of extra TLC into it because we were doing it for HGTV. I always tell people, when we're doing it for the show, we probably put an extra 20% in there just for the eye candy alone. We could have maybe even scaled back a bit, but we still did extremely well. We made some good money on it in a short period of time. And that house had all kinds of issues with it. But we pulled it off, and it was that house was awesome. That was my favorite episodes.
No doubt. Yeah, I was happy you showed up because at my level of expertise at that point, if I had to be cutting out concrete to run plumbing lines and all the other mess we ran into there, I definitely wasn't at the renovation expert level to take it on. But, I had you and our crew there, and yeah, we killed it, man. We did really good on that one. One of my favorite deals ever, for sure.
There you go. And I mean, I know what's happened since. We've bought 3 more in Buffalo. We did some stuff in Florida. We've done well. We've made money on everything. We're doing some buy and hold stuff now. I love the ones on the water there. Love those sort of small town, big profit type properties. But I want to get to the questions that people are really asking. Like, okay, so I get it. Billy can do 12 to 15 properties a year. But how? I mean, dude, you are like a hustler when it comes to getting these things done. So first thing people are always asking, where'd you get the money? How'd you do it?
OPM, baby. If you don't know, that stands for other people's money. And I got a lot of the handsome guy staring at me's money in play.
You do a lot of my money in play. I think we've done a lot of deals, but look at, I'm happy to invest because the returns are great, and we partner on a lot of this stuff. And you do a lot of the 2 things you're crazy good at, and we'll get into, is finding the deals. You are like a dog hound on a bone. You come up with some of the craziest opportunities. It's impossible to say no when you pull some of these properties out. And then, you also follow through. Like you do project management, which is great. And I call these JV partners. Like we both make money. I do a little bit of the advising, and I bring on, hopefully some of the marketing when we go to sell these properties. The marketing helps as well, and supply all the finances required at a reasonable rate. And you find the properties and project manage the renovations. So it's a perfect relationship. And here we're doing it. I'm sitting in Toronto. You're in the US. Like we do it right across the border. Not a big deal. And it works for both of us. And so the worst part is when we get together, when I come and we're working on the property, we get super excited. We start knocking on the neighbors' doors and trying to buy all their house.
I tell the story of you and I going and knock on the old guy down the street's door often. And I have the visual of him coming out. I don't even think it was like that, in like long johns and an Elmer Fudd hat, coming to talk to us at his front porch. And it cracks me up every time. But yeah, no doubt, man. It's always finding a way. And I think that's the thing that I've had great success in real estate is ultimately, if you can find deals, you can make a win-win scenario for multiple people involved. And when I first got into real estate investing, and like most beginners are like, oh my God, like I don't even have $1,000 to pay for if my car breaks down. How am I going to buy $100,000 cash? All these people are buying houses cash. And, it went from that mentality to now I've done, 40 of them. And I have people, when I tell how much money I pay out to my lenders, because I pay a good percentage, 10, 12, whatever percent, JV agreements. Sometimes I offer equity, whatever gets the deal done. And I have people that I would have been afraid to ask for money before, being like, hey man, how come you never asked me to get in on this? And, how do I get a piece on it when they're making 4 or 5% on their stocks, or it falls out from underneath or whatever else. And I'm offering lenders 10, 12% with a property to back their money so that, there's a no lose when it's insured, and, there's more equity in the property than they have money into it. And so you just really got to dig for opportunities. And once you find them, the rest of it falls in place, because it gets a lot easier to make win-win scenarios with great people and to build a good team. And, it gets a lot easier to pull the trigger when you can make it lucrative for a lot of different people when you have something in your hands that is a good deal.
Well, that's one of my rules. When people first question every amateur investor asks is, where do you get the money? Where do you get the money? And I tell people that's the wrong question to be asking at the beginning. The question that you should be asking is, how do I find the deals? How do I make the deals? How do I present the deals? Because if you ask somebody for money, they're not going to give it to you. Somebody comes and says, hey, I need some money because I want to do something. My answer is no. You have to show me how I'm going to make money, right? Whenever you and I do a deal, you're like, here's the property, here's the plan, here's the profit. And then you don't even have to ask. I'm like, I'm in. Like, let me give you the money. Let me give you, because I want to be part of this situation.
You're not alone, man. You're not alone. It's exciting. How exciting is it? People actually watch shows big time. I mean, hey, you've made a pretty good living on people being interested in real estate and how real estate deals escalate and what it takes to invite somebody into being a part of that. And people get super excited on. I share a lot on social media and everything else. I include partners that come in as much as they want to be included or don't want to be included. And that's what beginning investors need to realize, is that people are interested. And at first, when you start getting in properties, people might think it's stupid and ask you why you did it. But after you flip a bunch and get on TV with Scott McGillivray, they stop asking you why and they start asking you how. Here we are.
And here we are. And I think that's, maybe that's the next question. We've talked about where does the money come from? And clearly you've used other people's money. And I have to say, you've got some pretty good sales skills. Like, you're not just, coming at this blindly. Like, you know what you're doing. And I think people need to invest in learning about sales and learning how to present deals to people. That would be a good skill for anyone, especially in real estate, to have, because you're going to need to be able to talk to your investors and show them what the investments look like. But now my favorite question is, how do you find these properties? Like, what are you doing? Are you just sitting online looking at MLS, or come on, like, what's the secret here? Let's tell everybody, how do you find these incredibly discounted properties with a ton of potential to make money? Give us the answer, Billy.
Short, easy answer is leave no stone unturned. And when I started thinking about this question, I was like writing down all of the different ways I've acquired properties, whether it's marketing tools or whatever else. And my hands started cramping up, and I'm like, man, it's easier to say how I haven't, ever looked in properties. But, marketing is a very good way to do it. I've done a lot of different things, from yellow letter campaigns and mailers. I've put up "We Buy Houses Cash" bandit signs all over the place and had cities call me to come get them down, and all the rigmarole that comes with that. We've door knocked together. I've certainly done that without you.
Yeah, you've done that without me. We bought that property in Wilson and the vacant lot beside it by door knocking.
Yeah, we bought the neighbor's house.
Yeah, and we're going to buy the other neighbor's house too as soon as he's ready.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's as good as ours. But I think ultimately what I tend to always revolve back to when buying houses is don't prejudge opportunities. If an opportunity presents itself, you attack it like it's gold, because ultimately it can be. And I think that by doing that and broadcasting to everyone what you do, who you are, what you're looking for, social media, we have such an awesome platform that I don't want to date you, but you didn't necessarily have all those things when you got involved in real estate investing. But it's a good way, because a lot of people, their neighbors run down house that they're sick of looking at. They'll shoot me a message. I'll figure out who it is through public records or whatever else it is. Real estate groups on Facebook. We bought that house in Florida off a stupid real estate group that I'm part of that I never look at. There's almost 99% of garbage nobody wants to see on. But this wholesaler put it out there. I just threw a flyer on it, not thinking anything about it. Wanted $235,000 for that house. I was like, come back to me maybe when you're around 200. He came back to me at 200. We talked about it. We're like, 185 and you got a deal. He squirmed, got back to us 2 weeks later. We made like 60 grand on it.
Yeah.
And ultimately it would have never happened if I didn't just throw a flyer out there. And that's how most real estate deals happen. They're not, hey, I'm going to look at this one house, I'm going to buy it and make a lot of money. You gotta plant a lot of seeds if you're ever going to want to harvest, so I know that's not, it's not necessarily a secret that is like, hey, get rich quick, we can all do it. But
No.
you probably have more opportunities to buy good deals right now than you think. And no matter what situation you're in.
100%. You can't even take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there. And I think part of it is knowing what an opportunity looks like and what you can do with it. Like whether we've wholesaled or flipped or done buy and hold or the Burr method, vacation rentals. You kind of have to look at each property and say, well, what bucket does this fit in? Because it might not make money as a flip, but maybe as a buy and hold, it makes money. So being able to have the background or education, or at least the understanding of how that works is for sure critical. One of the things that it's not lost on me, and it's really important for anybody listening, is, there's a few different types of investors. There's different stages of investing, I guess you could say. So there's like the Billy Gleason stage where you are, which is the aggressive, hands-on investor. You're out knocking on doors, you're finding deals, project managing. This is like the very aggressive, first few years that you're an investor, where you have all the energy, you've got the time, and you've got the deals, but you don't have all the money to do it. And then, you've got, for me now on the other side of it, I did a lot of that. I did a ton of that. But now I'm on the other side where I'm the investor who needs a guy like you in order to be able to do, an extra 5 to 10 deals. If I have 5 to 10 guys like you doing 5 to 10 deals at a time, holy smokes, that can be pretty good on my part. And some of these properties like that we're working on, I never even go to them. I never even seen them in real life, just through the virtual tours. Is you're like, hey Scott, look, I found a safe in the floor. What do you want to do? I'm like, bust it open.
Oh man, I wish we had more time. That was something for sure.
That was something. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, is finding out that you bought a house from a retired mafia guy and that there's a safe in the floor, which is sealed under the tiles. That was crazy. Anyway,
oh my gosh.
That's a whole show in itself.
No doubt.
But, so I want to ask you the next question then. So we've talked about, where you find the money from other people, other investors. Don't use your own money. I get that part. Where do you find the properties? You've done everything from a lot of the sort of grassroots stuff, putting out flyers, knocking on doors, running ads. Even running ads on Facebook works well, right?
Facebook, Google, for sure.
What, a couple $100 a week on an ad, and you might get a few dozen leads.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, like right now, I do a lot of joint ventures. Obviously, we talked about, the ones that we do together.
Yeah.
It just makes sense as you get into real estate. And partnerships are really tough if you get too entrenched, because everyone has different, where they want to be, where they want it to go, type mentalities. But a gentleman that I do a lot of joint venture with now, his name's Louis Marrar out of Rochester, and he wanted to get more involved in Buffalo. He's already got a very integral marketing system that mixes a blend of Google ads, Facebook ads, to get inbound calls. And then he buys lists. He has a couple telemarketers that he pays a small wage, and then they get money per deal. And so I was doing all this stuff, wearing every hat of doing the marketing and everything else. Now that I'm on year 4, I can manage properties. I have money to bring to the table, different things like that. I'm plugged into his marketing system, and I buy about 60% of the properties with him. So it's not the only thing that I do, but he basically put these things together and then created a sales funnel. And so I get these leads delivered into my email, and I make the call, I go and see it. And that's ultimately what I've done over time as kind of a middle of the road investor. Right now, I'm obviously not where I'm just getting guys like me and paying the money and like where you're at stage, but I'm also not at the beginning, like how the heck do I do this either? And so we bring value to each other, and that's awesome, because that's what I'm really good at, as you alluded to, is talking to people and going using some sales skills to ultimately, either buy or list their house for them. And so, as far as buying houses, you can even buy them off Craigslist, the MLS. Before I had the system, I bought a lot of houses off the MLS. And I would say anything, what it always comes down to, no matter where you're trying to buy houses, is follow up. And any sales really, as I know you've done a bunch of different sales training, and so that's a very important skill to have. I remember the first lead we ever got, my dad and I put bandit signs on. We had a money line that people called into, and this woman called and she's like, oh yeah, she wants 35,000 for this house, won't move on it, whatever. Like, it's not a deal, blah, blah, blah. And my dad's a contractor. He's, good people skills, but he's never done any scales. So I called her back, and after hearing a life story, 45 minutes to an hour spiel about it, she eventually told me, look, I just don't want the house. It's a headache. I owe 15,000 to the bank, and I don't want to make the mortgage payment. The taxes are due and everything else. And so after basically, understanding her understanding me, we ended up buying that same house for $15,000. And ultimately, if we would have prejudged it, based on what she told us at first, no lower than 35, which would just not make any sense, then we would have totally lost out on that deal. And so I never prejudge opportunities anymore.
You nailed it, right? You're going to regret the deals you didn't do more than the ones you did do. So
for sure,
better to get on them. Oh my gosh, exactly. We're moving on time, bro. We're really kicking along. I want to ask you one more thing really quickly, because this might be the most relevant question, especially for people listening, because the opportunities that you and I have been able to, recognize just blow people's minds. The majority of North America pays a significantly higher price for properties than what you and I do. Just to give people an idea, and you don't have to swing the camera around or anything, how much did we buy that house for that you're sitting in there? And it's on the water, and it's in a cute little town. How much did we pay for that house?
Purchased this one for $40,000.
$40,000 purchase price. And that is a great house. And we've done some work to it. I get that. Yeah. But most people can't dream of buying a house for $40,000 that's in a decent neighborhood, close to a nice town, on the water, with a beautiful lot. So what are you doing right now? Where are the best deals that you are finding right now, besides the ones that we're doing? Don't give those away to anyone.
Yeah, but top secret.
No, I know. You know what? I've always been a full disclosure guy. We've got no secrets here. There's so much to go around. And, you're in upstate New York, or Western New York, I guess you could say. You're kind of all over the state of New York with your investing. But what is it that you're doing right now, and what's happening in that market? Like, what are the biggest opportunities you see right now?
I mean, it's probably like most areas where it's booming, real estate wise. I'm a real estate agent as well. And so I got a really good pulse on, the market. And single family homes are just, it's like anything. When the retail houses are selling for more, it's going to be harder to dig out the deals because people are losing out on properties. And so they're buying more fixer-uppers because they're missing out on the, houses that they want. And just out of necessity, it's the high tides raising all ships on that end. And so one of the niches I've found, because we were all like, what the heck are we going to do in real estate when the pandemic hit, right? I mean, can't leave your freaking house. How are you going to sell a house? Yeah. You and I remember calling you the very first day. Things looked like they were shutting down, and we had a property in Florida under contract, and I had 3 others. And I'm like, dude, what do I do? And we ultimately decided to sit tight just to see how things went. But when the market turned back around, it's like, hey, we all had to kind of zig a little bit where we were zagging, because you can't just go about life the same way. And so with things being a little riskier, I looked for investment opportunities that, gave you a little bit extra as far as exit strategies were concerned. And so I still need a flip because I don't have a huge portfolio that rents are just going to cover my nut. So I need that active income, the $20,000, $30,000 chunks, every so often coming in to fuel things. And one of the niches I've found since things opened back up was buying multifamilies, mostly doubles. and turning them around into flips as owner-occ doubles. And so a lot of these are distressed enough to where there's at least one vacant unit. Sometimes there's not, and you have to offer cash, to the people, that you want to have that vacate the unit, to leave. That's one of the trickier parts of it. But I've sold one of them already that I got 30,000 over asking price.
Amazing.
The awesome thing about that was the rent on the other side paid for about 75% of the interest that I was paying on that house to hold it. So I almost had no holding costs, which, as you know, in my position can be one of the most expensive parts of a deal.
Absolutely.
On top of it, with where we didn't know how volatile the market was going to be, worst case scenario, if I had to hold on to it and get somebody in the bottom unit instead of selling it, I would have made a few $100s a month cash flowing. And so I bought about 3 or 4 of them since. And, I haven't had an issue selling them. They're all selling like hotcakes. But ultimately, if something goes different with the virus or whatever else in the market, and the bottom falls out from underneath, I'm not going to be sitting there with a huge house that already has a small buyer's pool with no way to get rid of the thing without just selling it for 50 cents on the dollar. I got something with multiple exit strategies. I can wholesale, I can rent them, or I can flip them. And that's what I'm trying to do more of.
Absolutely, bro. That's brilliant. I mean, I always, me, I love the rental properties, the multi-units, because I would only sell them if I have to. And that's like the short-term profit of flipping, but the goal is to keep more of them. And I know you're moving towards that. And in the next couple of years, you're not going to need my money because you're going to have too much of your own. And I'm real happy for you.
I'll always take it though, man. I just throwing that out there.
I know. Bro, I'm so excited. I'm really pumped, and I appreciate you sharing all this with everyone because, there's a lot of people that identify with your energy and, your goal of leaving corporate America and the ceiling that it puts on you, as somebody who wants to work harder, but the compensation just isn't there. And you've gone out and you've done it for yourself, and you've replaced a 6-figure salary with something even bigger on the investment side, and it's only getting better. So I'm pumped for you. I'm excited for us to do some more deals together. And I'm gonna just keep you on while I kind of reveal my last story that I started with, which was how I went from buying 1 house, then I bought 2, then I bought 8 in a day. A lot of people ask this, of me, and I don't typically share this story because it is a bit crazy, but I was probably 23 years old. And I realized that real estate investing was something I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it well. And the broker I was using to get my mortgages basically said, Scott, you're tapped out, man. Like, you can't get approved for any more financing. Even if you borrow funds, like, you're done. You're done. They won't give you any more. Like you could maybe get one more. I'm like, maybe one more. I'm like, how am I going to become a real estate investor if I can't get any more mortgages? And he's like, I've shopped it around. He's like, this bank said they would give you a mortgage. This bank said they would give you a mortgage. But he's like, literally, they're all like, this is the last one. And so I sat down with him. I'm like, well, let's take a look at who would still be willing to give me a mortgage. And we found 8 lenders that were willing to give me one more mortgage. So I said, nice. What if I got all 8 of those mortgages? And he's like, well, literally, your closings would have to line up so close together so that nothing shows up on your credit report.
Yeah.
And so I did it. I went shopping so aggressively for 4 weeks. I just found like the best possible rental properties I could find. And I was basically like put the offers in and lined up all the offer and closing dates to be the same. And I closed on all 8 of those properties on the same day and got 8 loans from 8 different lenders who told me that I could only have one more. And I was like, boom, crushed it. And the irony of the whole thing is, within less than a year from then, my portfolio now with 11 properties was generating enough cash flow that my income was much higher than it had ever been. And by the time I reported my income at the end of that year, my broker was like, everybody's excited to lend to you again because you've got so much income. Like, the irony here is not lost on me, that nobody wants to lend to you when you're trying to build your portfolio, but once you have it, they all are willing to lend to you. So it is, where there's a will, there's a way. And you're one of the most resourceful people that I've met. And I'm going to have you back on to share, I think what I'd love to talk to you is about these properties under $100,000, because that's pretty much where we live and survive with our properties, as we try to get them really like insane discounts, which is one of my favorite things. It also allows us to get more of them and do more interesting things. But I thought you'd appreciate that story of my early hustle.
I love it.
It's never lost on me how hard it is to start as a real estate investor. So every nugget that we can provide to somebody who's in that stage for them to get to the next level is a big help.
Yeah, it's hard for someone sitting, never doing a deal, listening to you and I right now. I understand that, because it wasn't long ago I was sitting in that same situation. It's like, oh yeah, now they got all this money, it's easy for them to say. But it really is, the concept of it right now for you, if you've never done it before, is as hard as it's going to be. And I promise you'll realize in a year or two that the things you thought were really hard about real estate investing right now are some of the easier things. And there's definitely challenges to go, but finding money and finding deals is not easy. Do everything you can, look under every rock, hustle, and follow up and get a good one under contract. And then I promise you the money and the rest of the things will fall in place.
Bro, I want to thank you so much. You probably don't know how much you've helped the people listening. There's some investors there that hopefully have some new resources, have some new inspiration. And I really appreciate you sharing that with all of them. Billy's Billy's story is an important and great example of how anyone can become a real estate investor if they put their mind to it and work. It's tough at the beginning. Love the fact that, Billy, you're now going through sort of those intermediate stages, becoming a more established and sophisticated real estate investor. So thanks again so much for sharing. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. That was great. I love talking to investors. That's how Billy did 15 deals in 1 year. He says he's doing approximately a dozen a year right now. I've done about 5 with him this year, so that's pretty exciting. Lots of, it's just such a reminder every time I talk to him of how much energy it takes to get this thing started. He's in his first few years of investing. He started 2018, but he's now gaining that momentum. Every time I get together with him or talk to him about another deal, I see the sophistication growing. And it's amazing that, in approximately 3 years of investing, he's created an entirely new lifestyle, an income, something for his family. And he's well on his way to becoming potentially one of the most successful investors that I've worked with. And hopefully you guys can learn from Billy as well on some of those cool techniques that he's using. So if you guys want to learn more about real estate investing, you can visit scottmcgillivray.com. If you have any questions for myself or for Billy, he's also on the Real Estate Rebel Facebook group. You can leave your questions there. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. We need you guys to participate on those things so that we know we can make more episodes for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Scott McGillivray, and we'll talk to you soon.